It's playoff week, Rube. I'm excited.
I am too. It's a fun week. It's always fun. And we're lucky. I mean, the team we cover is always in the playoffs. So what is it? I guess this would be since 17, they've only missed it once, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 7 out of 8 years. Yeah, they're a fun team to cover because they're always good.
Yeah, don't take it for granted. As someone who covers the team, shouldn't take it for granted. As a fan, you get to see the playoffs every year. That's a lot of fun. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan. Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro. Reuben, was funny. I was talking to one of our colleagues, JP Finley, before the Eagles-Commanders game, and it's like he's getting ready for a locker clean out, and this happens quite a bit. It does put it in perspective that, man, the Eagles are in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, you look at some of the – imagine being a Jets fan. Imagine being a Dolphins fan, have won a playoff game in like 30 years. I mean, there's some bad teams out there that are bad every year. Eagles are good every year.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. With the Steelers winning on Sunday night, the Eagles are the only repeat winner in their division in the NFL this year. So that puts it in perspective,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
And the Eagles and Bills are the only teams to make the playoffs 5 straight years. And I think the Bills have made it 7 straight. But Tampa didn't make it. The Chiefs didn't make it. Some perennial playoff teams, the Ravens, didn't make it. So as we all saw in that heartbreaker. But yeah, they're just a team that's going to be good every year with the ownership in place, the GM, the quarterback, and the coach. I mean, you're strong up the middle. You're going to be good.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year. We'll talk about what it would take for that to happen. But
3 wins.
Well,
3-game winning streak.
That is true. That is how that will need to happen. But a lot to talk about today. In a little bit, we're going to be joined by Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area, get a little intel on the 49ers and find out what he knows about that team as they come into the link. We have a bunch of questions to get to later in the podcast. The inbox was flooded, as you'd imagine. A lot of those were about Week 18. We'll answer a few Week 18 questions, but then it's full steam ahead on this matchup, the wild card matchup. It's a big one. Eagles now favored by 4.5 points. That line has slid a little bit in their favor.
Yeah, interesting. I'm not sure what precipitated that. Usually there's like an injury or some news comes out, but yeah, it's a pretty big number, surprisingly to me.
Yeah, it started off, I saw 3.5. Some people told me 3, but it certainly has moved in the direction of the Eagles. So we'll watch that as the week goes on. With some of that injury stuff, we'll see how that affects it. But Rube, I came up with a list of 5 reasons for optimism heading into the playoffs and 5 concerns. I think it's a fun thing. Let's just go through the list. I think it's a way to cover a lot of ground and kind of figure out what we think and feel about this team as they enter the playoffs.
Let's do it.
So reasons for optimism. We'll start off with the rose-colored glasses. And number 1 to me, and this is a really big one, this is a championship-level defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're going to have to lean on as far as they go in the postseason, and they are. They were playing, and you throw out Sunday against Washington with the backups, but this is a defense that over the last 2 months has given up under 15 or 16 points a game, which is a really good number. They've been really good against good quarterbacks and good teams. Use the word suffocating. I think it's a great word. They just suffocate offenses. They're good against the run. Their secondary has been unbelievably good. They led the league in pass defense as far as completion percentage, touchdown passes allowed. I think they were second in passer rating to the Chargers. So there's not a lot you can do against this defense, and it's going to serve them well.
Yeah, it's a really good tackling defense too. And, I'm already starting to look ahead at this matchup on Sunday. That's a really big deal against a 49ers team that wants to get a lot of yards after catch. If you're able to stop them at the point of the catch, it goes a long way. And we're going to get into the matchups later in the week, but I do think this Eagles defense matches up against that high-powered 49ers offense.
Yeah, and they have been a really good tackling team, and hasn't always been the case around here lately. So they gang tackle, they get numbers to the ball, and their corners tackle well. I mean, when your corners tackle well, and your linebackers and up front do as well, I mean, that's a pretty complete package that you're offering.
Yeah, and I think the thing that impresses me about this Eagles defense is that it really is at every level. You look up front, they've been so much better in the second half of the season. Jalen Hunt has come on so strong. You have Jalen Phillips in the mix. You have a healthier Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis has been great. So that front is dynamic. At linebacker, It looks like Nakobe Dean is going to play in this game. That goes a long way. Zach Bond has been as steady as they come. And then you go to the secondary, and you have Quinyon Mitchell, you have Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship has kind of steadied the ship. And I think if there is a weakness in this defense, it's probably still a Dory Jackson at the cornerback 2 spot, but they've also done a good job of minimizing the damage that offenses can do by trying to attack him.
Yeah, and when you have pressure, when you have elite pass pressure, it takes pressure off a cornerback. And Adoree has been pretty solid. I didn't have that on my bingo card the first half of the year.
Yeah, it was funny. They tried to replace him at every turn, and he just kept playing better and better. And it's not like he's an all-pro back there. I think he's still a little concerned with him on the field, but we saw the alternatives in Week 18, and he is much better.
Yeah, it seems like every time they brought in a new guy to challenge him, he played better. So just keep bringing in guys and keep motivating them.
Yeah, it seems to do the trick. Number 2, this is a big one too. The Eagles are pretty darn healthy, and now they're rested after sitting a lot of the starters in Week 18. And I don't want to relitigate the Week 18 decision, but the benefit of it, the absolute benefit of it is that not only did those players not get injured that didn't play, but they are presumably in better shape now having that rest.
Yeah, and we heard a couple of guys talk about just the mental break of not going through the grind for a week. And yeah, they're in great shape. I mean, Drew Makuba is out, but Marcus Epps has been pretty solid. Now he had a concussion. We'll see about his availability. But the thing, I mean, when you look at this, like when they've had success in the postseason, other than 2017, they were pretty banged up. But in recent years under Nick, when they've been healthy, they've had long, deep runs, and they really this franchise really values that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I asked Nick Sirianni about that on Monday, and look, they can't take all the credit for it. Some of it is just luck. There's injury luck. This is a violent sport. Guys are going to get hurt, but they really do try as best they can to avoid those injuries. And, it's impossible to know how much of it is luck, how much of it is the preparation and the work, but I think they deserve some credit for it, certainly. And you're right. I mean, in 22, they had 22 of 22. That was a lot of 22s. In the first Super Bowl run under Nick Sirianni, they had 22 of 22 starters in the Super Bowl. Last year, they had 21 of 22. And going into the playoffs this year, it looks like they have 21 of 22. The only one not playing, or who we know won't play, is Makuba. And you can argue they've been better with Marcus Epps.
More solid. Yeah. Maybe he's not going to make the splash plays that we've seen Makuba make, but he's been good. I think it goes back to training camp, and just Nick's training camp plan is a wise one. I mean, they don't practice that long. They don't kill each other in goal line and short yardage. And then he gets the guys through training camp. They get their work in, and it's fast and physical. If you've been to practice, it's not like a golf club here, but country club, I guess is the proper phrase. Golf club makes it sound like it's a club. But yeah,
they driver 3-iron.
Yeah, I think it starts in the summer, and they're just really smart about it. They look at the science of it really deeply, and they've studied that stuff, and I mean, hydration, everything from the GPS that the players have, and understanding what what the stress level is on their bodies, giving the older players day off here and there, even into the season, and then the walkthroughs on Wednesday. Just all that stuff adds up.
Number 3, and I know this is a topic you've been asking coaches about, but Jalen Hurts.
Did I telegraph that story?
Well, that's okay. You're allowed to. You're asking good questions. Jalen Hurts is battle tested. This is a guy that, you can say whatever you want about him during the year. I think a lot of the discussion around Hurts gets exhausting. That's kind of another fun topic in this game, is like Hurts and Purdy might be the two quarterbacks that people try to put them where they belong in the league, and I don't know if it really matters. And Jalen Hurts, when he gets in the playoffs, plays well. The two best games I've ever seen him play happened in Super Bowls, and that is meaningful to me.
Yeah, I think when you have a quarterback that's been in every situation, and super high leverage situations, and played well, I mean, the pressure doesn't bother him, and we've seen that. I mean, he's probably in his career been a better postseason quarterback than regular season quarterback.
The numbers bear that out.
Yeah. He's got 7 games. He's played 9 games in the postseason. He's had a passer rating of 100 or higher 7 times. Really, the only bad game he had was the first Tampa game. That was the only, I think he had 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. But ever since then, I mean, he's been really solid. And when you look at the quarterbacks in the playoffs this year, there's a lot of guys that don't have that experience. Now, Purdy does. He's played in a lot of big games, and well, I mean, the only other quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl who are in the postseason, I guess, are Stafford and Rodgers. Rodgers was 15 years ago, 2 teams ago. But most of these guys don't have that experience, and I just think that's really important this time of year. He's been, whatever situation comes up, he's been in it and made big plays.
Number 4, they still have really good offensive weapons. And I think that's part of the frustration of this offense not performing well. But look, sometimes talent just wins. And they have talented players. They have Saquon Barkley. They have A.J. Brown. They have Devontae Smith. They have Dallas Goedert. And those guys are eventually going to win some matchups. I don't know if it's going to be enough all the time, but you still feel confident that they have the talent on offense at those skill positions.
Yeah, and I was writing about the offense the other day, and I said, it's not like they don't have good players. I mean, they have good players. They're just not playing well as a group, as an offense, and play calling is part of that. I mean, for this team to be averaging, what did they finish at, like 20 points a game?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes some returns, 3 returns. I mean, that's, with the talent they have, that's inexcusable. So it gives you hope that if Patullo can get them into a rhythm with his play calling, which is we just haven't seen a lot of against good teams, they can score 30 or 35 points. And they're going to win a lot of games if they can do that. We just haven't seen it, but it's there.
Yeah. And even the numbers tell you it's there. They had 2,000-yard receivers. They had a running back, obviously a down year from the standard set last year, but still rushed for 1,100 yards. And they had a tight end who had 11 touchdown passes. Those guys are still good.
Yeah. And a quarterback who's won more games than anybody at this age other than Patrick Mahomes. So the pieces are there. There's no doubt about it. I just don't know if the OC can get the most out of those pieces. We'll see.
Number 5, I think the NFC is just wide open. The Eagles are absolutely a flawed team. There's no question about it. But I think every single team in these playoffs in this conference, and you can even look to the AFC too, there are flaws with all of these teams. It's kind of a wide open year. And so you look at it and you say, oh, if it's a wide open year, you have an experienced team that's good. Like, why can't they make a run?
Yeah, it's a fair point. And, you laid it out with each team. Each team has a weakness. Whether it's one side of the ball or their quarterback, the way they finish the season, like in the Packers case. There's no one team. I think Seattle's probably the scariest team because I think their defense is good enough to overcome their quarterback. They're probably the most complete team, run the ball well, but yeah, there's no one team that you're like, wow, how are they going to beat them?
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see the Eagles going into Seattle and winning that game.
Sure, it'd be a tough game, no doubt, but you're going to face tough games in the playoffs for the most part. It's not always going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah. Now, would you fly right from Seattle to San Francisco?
No, that would be a long layoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to come back here.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's get to the reasons for concern. And we know what number 1 is.
Which one of these was more fun to write?
I don't know. I think I enjoyed both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. The play caller and the offensive scheme, it's suspect, right? Like, it's the flip side of having all that talent on offense. There's a reason why Eagles fans have been frustrated all year, and it's because they're not maximizing that talent.
Yeah. And I think I said before the season they're going to score 30 points a game. They should have. Obviously, they weren't close to that number. And there's just so many things. There's so many different ways to measure how bad they've been. Third downs, yards per play.
3 and outs.
3 and outs. The number is crazy. There's just, and at times they've done some really good things. They've had some games where they've run the ball great. They've had some games where the passing game has really blossomed. They just can't put it together and do all these things again at the same time against a good team.
And it's probably unrealistic to expect the switch to be flipped, right? That's the vernacular everyone uses with it. I think it's probably just it's not going to happen like that. Can they be better? Yes, and I think that has to be the hope is that in the playoffs they're able to lean into some of the things that have worked. Maybe they're more willing to run the quarterback, like little things on offense that they haven't been able to do consistently. Maybe they find a little more consistency because if this offense becomes average, I think they have a legit chance to go on a real run here.
Yeah. I mean, if they can score 24-27 with this defense, they have a chance to win some games.
Number two,
Just don't know if they can get there.
they can't lean on the run game like they used to. And, Jordan Mailata, when I talked to him last week, said how confident they are in the offense. And part of his reasoning was that they've been doubted before. And I understand that from his perspective, that last year the offense was doubted going into the playoffs, but there was no doubt that they could run the ball. The doubt was in one element of their offense. They were always able to lean on their rushing offense. And that hasn't been the case this year. And that's troubling because that's what they want to be.
Yeah, and that's what they've tried to be really from day one, and they just haven't been able to do it. It's been frustrating watching them try to run the ball, especially in the second halves. I mean, it seems like a lot of games they start off good and then it just dries up, and they're getting -2 yards on first down. They're in the hole, and then we hear all week about how we were behind the sticks. It just keeps happening. Um, Now, maybe the week of rest, I think big part of this is the O-line not being healthy, but you can get Landon and Cam a modicum of health and just the ability to play more like themselves that we're used to seeing. I think that could make a big difference.
Yeah. And
And having Lane
honestly, I
back.
think when Nick, he hasn't said this publicly, but when he's deciding to rest his players, I got to think the offensive line was at the front of his mind.
I would think so. Yeah. And that's the running game. I mean, because Saquon, we've seen enough good things from Saquon that I can't sit here and say he's any different. I don't think the 493 touches last year has had any lingering effect on him. I mean, he's still, when he has room to run, he's still fast. He's powerful. He's all the things he was last year. So it's not him. So having a healthy O-line is going to give him a chance.
Number 3, Jake Elliott. He just hasn't been a very good kicker this year. In fact, he's been one of the worst kickers in the league when you look at the stats of it. Now, he did make the last 3 field goals of his regular season, and I think that helps and it matters. But I also think if you're concerned about him going into the playoffs, that's warranted.
Yeah, he's also, 26 for 27 in his career in the postseason, second highest average ever. He'll never catch a number one because somebody didn't miss. I forget who it was, Grammatica. I forget, but how do you feel about Jake Elliott? Like I know it's only 3 kicks and they weren't super long ones, but I feel a little better because he kind of got through the worst of it maybe and made some kicks at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think those kicks help. I don't know if it puts it to bed, all
Yeah.
those fears, but it's better than the alternative.
Sure.
And you look around the league, I mean, that Sunday night game, right? I mean, one of the best kickers like every good kicker misses. Cameron Dicker missed some big kicks at the end of the year. Chris Boswell, who just doesn't missed that PAT.
The guy in Dallas,
Brandon Aubrey missed some
Aubrey
kicks.
missed a couple
Yeah.
makeable ones for him.
Yeah. Boswell missed that PAT that set up a game-winning field goal that then that rookie kicker missed. So like it happens around the league. We talk about Jalen Hurts being battle tested. Jake Elliott, he's kicked in 3 Super Bowls. He hasn't missed a field goal in a Super Bowl yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And the 2 as a rookie were huge in the fourth quarter against the Patriots. Yeah, I feel a little better about him, but I think we'll all be holding our breath a little bit if he lines up for a big, like 52-yarder.
Yeah, that's fair. And we'll see what happens after the season. You and I were in agreement that it never made sense to try to find someone
Right.
during the year. You were better off hoping that Jake just figured it out and he got better. And I don't know, the signs look good based on those 3 makes, but I think some of that is still to be determined.
Yeah, I would think if he has a good postseason, that would go a long way to kind of getting him back here. But if he struggles, and he might not even, like they might be one and done and he doesn't kick any field goals. He has no attempts, or 2 games he has 1 attempt. So you never know. Like you can't control how many attempts he's going to get unless you start kicking him on like second and goal. But
Seems unlikely.
sorry,
Seems unlikely.
does seem unlikely. But yeah, I think the jury's still out on him, but I feel a little better than I did a couple weeks ago.
Number 4, There is a slim margin for error on defense right
Wow.
now.
Yeah.
It's just
You don't like their cornerback depth?
I don't even mean the depth. I just mean that the offense is going to put pressure on them to be just about perfect. And that's tough. That's a tough way to live.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of are in agreement that the only way they're going to win is if the defense plays great. Like, I can't imagine the defense not playing well. They're not going to win a 42-38 game because they can't score 42. They've had months this year where they haven't scored 42. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure on them. They seem like they're up for it. You won't get guys to admit it, but I think they like being the unit that the team's really counting on.
Yeah, I have been impressed by that. And we've kind of talked about this throughout the year that, yeah, sometimes when there's one side of the ball playing well and one side isn't, there can be division. You've talked about it with previous Eagles teams. If anything, the Eagles defense, like, in a way, I feel like they get juiced up being the unit that leads this team.
Kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd rather that. Like, you'd rather them be like, hey, if we need to hold them to 10 points, we'll hold them to 10 points. Like, we'll do whatever it takes. And I like that mindset from this defense.
You haven't heard anything remotely like, finger pointing. You can't hear finger pointing, but you know what I mean. You haven't seen any indication of frustration that, like, hey, we're holding up our end of the bargain. What's the offense doing? You don't get that. And that's big.
Yeah. If anything, it's been like further than that. It's been, Jordan Davis on his pulpit saying, we believe in this offense. They're going to figure it out and we're going to hold it down until they do.
Yeah. Yeah. It was cool to see.
Number 5 is that the path.
I love Jordan Davis, by the way. I just love having him around.
Yeah, he was the I don't know if we mentioned this. He was the media stand-up guy award winner this year. Very well deserved.
Like a good guy award.
Yeah, it's called the Good Guy Award in other markets. We named it as a stand-up guy award in Philly. But yeah, he has a great personality and he's let it kind of shine through all year. So
yeah.
That's
And I think the way he's playing really kind of empowers him to let his personality show even more.
Yeah, it's tough to be yourself when you're not playing well.
Yeah.
It's tough to be a leader when you're not playing well.
Yeah, he's playing great.
And he's been both of those things. And 5 reasons for concern. The path isn't as easy as it was before. They're the 3 seed. There's a chance they're going to have to go on the road in the second round of the playoffs. And as good of a road team as they are, it's tougher on the road. It's a tougher way to live. Last year, they got lucky. They got to have the NFC Championship game in Philly after the Commanders won, and they took care of business. So, it's probably going to be a tougher road this year.
Yeah. Now, I do think, their road numbers are incredible under Nick. I do think they could go into Chicago. There are some places that are really tough to play.
You can make the argument that playing Chicago in Chicago is an easier game than playing the Rams at home.
You can make that case. Yeah.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Although
obviously.
Nick is 4-0 against the Rams. But you want to be at home, I think. If you have any chance. And that was big. Just not traveling every weekend. It was huge.
Both times under Nick that they've gone to the Super Bowl, they've gotten to play the slate out at home.
Yeah.
And heck, the last 3 Super Bowls, they've gotten to do that.
True. 17 as well.
It matters. This
does.
is a tough place to play at the Link. Those are my 5 reasons for concern. So go through the list, Reuben. Is there anything I missed in terms of optimism or concern that you think I should have included?
No, I think you really covered everything here. I think you touched all the bases.
Okay.
And kind of balanced the reasons to be optimistic and the reasons not to be.
So after reading this piece, after talking about it,
I think they're going to get killed. No.
Yeah, does it? I think I tried to just lay it all out without coming to any conclusions, but does it lead you to any conclusions? Do you feel better or worse about the team? I'm wondering if people listening, having gone through that exercise with us, if they feel better or worse about the team.
Well, I think it is good to remember that this is an 11-win team. Should have probably been a 12-win team, but it's an 11-win team that won its division, dominated its division, and beat some really good teams in some tough places. So I think it's important to remember that even though it's easy to be pessimistic because the offense has been so bad, this is a really good team, and they have a chance to do some damage.
Yeah, and I think the element of the other teams in the NFC is a good one, and it's one that because we get sometimes so bogged down by this team because we cover this team. Folks listening are fans of this team, but when you zoom out a little bit and you look at the state of the conference, I think that quells some of those fears. And it doesn't mean that they're going to go through the NFC. It just simply means they have a chance.
And it's easy to forget like that. You're like, oh, the Eagles have this weakness. It's easy to remember every team has a
Mm-hmm.
weakness. Every team's going through the same thing right now, trying to figure out where can we be better. And so the Eagles aren't alone in that. Like the offense has been subpar, but every team has, how come we can't run the ball? How come we can't stop the run? Why are we so bad on third down? Every team's got something like that.
All right, that was fun. Let's take a break. When we come back, really looking forward to this. Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area to get a little intel on the 49ers.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast and 49ers Talk. Some of you know my voice. Some of you are very confused right now. I'm Dave Zangaro. That's Reuben Frank, both of us from the Eagle Eye Podcast, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And you know what? Since the Eagles are the 3rd seed and the 49ers are the 6th seed, that means that Eagle Eye has home field advantage. So Dave and Reuben, take it away.
We appreciate that. We tried to figure out like who's going to host who. I figured it only made sense that we would play host on the podcast. So that's what we're doing. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to see. It's difficult to call it a real rivalry. It felt that way in 2022 and 2023, but a couple of regular seasons without the 49ers and the Eagles meeting, a lot of the faces over here on this side have changed a lot, but I think the fan bases still see it as a rivalry.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, after that championship game, there was a lot of back and forth between the fan bases. You kind of wish they would have played more over the last couple of seasons because of all that, and it just wasn't on the schedule.
Matt, did you cover the 96 wild card game at Candlestick, 14-0 game?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that the game? I think that was the game that Steve Young had his ribs broken, right?
I'm not sure about that. I know he threw a touchdown to Jerry and ran for a touchdown. And
yeah, I think that was on that touchdown run that he broke his ribs. And then
it was a rainy day at Candlestick, and he came in the Eagles locker room after the game, and he had 65 rushing yards in that game, and Ricky only had 57. And Ricky had rushed for like 1,400 yards that year. And Steve Young came over, and Ricky went over and hugged him and said, "Man, you had more rushing yards than I did." I remember that. But yeah, that was the first Eagles 49ers playoff game.
Yeah, that's
and this is the third.
That's a good, and it's a great matchup, don't you think? I mean, you look at this game and you think that where both teams are strong, that's a matchup, and then where both teams have some legitimate question marks, that's a matchup. Yeah. So it'll be this kind of contrasting, I guess, strength versus strength and weakness versus weakness.
Yeah, the most fun part to me is Kyle Shanahan against Vic Fangio. Mm-hmm. And there's very clearly a mutual respect between those two guys, but that's good on good. And that's going to be, to me, the most fun matchup of this game.
Yes. In 2017, when Kyle Shanahan became head coach of the 49ers, he wanted Vic Fangio to be his defensive coordinator, and Fangio was under contract as defensive coordinator to the Bears. And I think Kyle was trying to pull some strings behind the scenes to get Fangio out of that contract. And I think Vic was very open to coming back to San Francisco, where he had served as defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh, but just couldn't make it work. And they really haven't faced off against each other all that much. I think the last time was 2018. So it's been a while. I know that obviously Shanahan has a great deal of respect for Vic Fangio. And I also know from covering Vic for 4 years, The one thing, and he had some really good defenses with the 49ers. One thing that always stood out would be you'd go talk to, the linebackers or the safeties after a game, and after a guy would make a big play, and almost universally that player would say, Vic told me on Thursday that if they get into this down and distance at this part of the field, this is the play they're going to run. So I was ready for it. And that always stuck with me. Like, this guy he knows it. He knows the opposition as well as, the offense knows itself. And I could say the same thing about Shanahan. Like, he really knows the other team's offense, and he schemes it up, and he will tell guys, this is the play call for, this situation, because that defense is going to be in this coverage, and this is how we're going to beat it. And so it really is a matchup of two coordinators who are at the absolute tops of their games.
Yeah, Vic talked about that today, how he wishes he could have gone to San Francisco that year, and he would have loved to work with Kyle. So it's a shame that didn't happen. But yeah, he spoke very highly of him, and it's such an intriguing matchup because you're right. It's good on good, and the other matchup it's hard to get as excited about because the Eagles' offense has been so bad, and the 49ers are pretty banged up on defense and hasn't been their strength this year. So it's pretty intriguing
But
how it's
doesn't
playing
that
out.
but doesn't that kinda make it intriguing as well? It's like
It does.
it's like who it might not be, who wins that 49ers offense versus Eagles defense matchup. I mean, that could kinda turn into a stalemate, to a degree, but maybe it's which unit that has underperformed or not performed up to a really high playoff level, which of that matchup, will the Eagles find it? I'm curious what's going on with the Eagles offense. I mean, this is basically the same offense that won the Super Bowl last year, and then the 49ers defense.
There's a
They're
different coordinator, different play
Yeah,
caller.
and you think that's it?
I think it's a big part of it.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. And then their offensive line just hasn't been as healthy this year. So they haven't had the rushing attack that they're used to. But you look at the Eagles right now, and they're relatively healthy going into this game. They might have 21 of 22 starters. Some question marks. Lane Johnson, we'll see how healthy he is. He's going to practice this week. Nakobe Dean, the linebacker, is expected to play. And then Marcus Epps, their safety, has a concussion. So he's just got a clear protocol. I know that the situation for the 49ers has not been as great. The linebacker has been an issue. Where are they injury-wise right now?
Yeah, the two guys that missed the game Saturday night against Seattle, Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall, two really important parts of the 49ers offense. They're going to be evaluated as the week goes on. Williams sustained a hamstring injury in that Sunday night game against the Bears. Apparently, he reached 17.5 miles per hour trying to chase down the Bears linebacker on the pick six. So he pulled his hamstring. I think there's a chance he'll be back. And the same with Pearsall. He's had this nagging knee injury, a PCL injury in his right knee. So they held him out Sunday as well. So if those guys come back, that changes the 49ers offense significantly or just improves them. The linebacker situation is very thin. Tatum Bethune, who filled in admirably for Fred Warner. He sustained a groin injury against the Seahawks in week 18. He's out, but I think the 49ers are kind of covered there because in November, they picked up Eric Kendricks, longtime NFL starter, very good player
His brother was here for years.
yeah,
Played on their 2017 Super Bowl team.
yeah, and Eric is before the season, a 10-year starter, 150 starts or more in his career. So I don't think they're going to lose a whole lot there now that he's been around for more than a month. He knows the system. He's a smart guy. I think he can still make plays. The other linebacker spot, D. Winters, who's also played well, over 100 tackles this season. He had an ankle injury Saturday night, so that remains a little bit iffy too. So yeah, they're thin at linebacker. Heck, I mean, they're not real good, comparatively speaking, around the NFL at defensive line, probably at linebacker and the secondary, their best players, probably their best defensive players for this game Sunday might very well be cornerback Diamador Lenore, who teams often avoid, and it could be Eric Kendricks, the middle linebacker, because at the defensive line position, they're the worst team in the league as far as getting after the quarterback. I do want to ask you about Bryce Huff and what happened there, but Bryce Huff got off to a good start, 4 sacks pretty early in the season, hasn't had a sack since mid-October.
Week 7, right?
Yeah, and the 49ers just can't generate pressure on the quarterback, but I'm not sure they're going to be selling out to go after Jalen Hurts on Sunday. I think they're going to be very much cognizant of keeping him in the pocket and not necessarily going for the sack. I think they just want to keep him contained and take away his first read and make him go through his progressions.
We're wanting to take the Bryce Huff question.
Yeah, it was weird. 3-year, $51 million contract, and he just never fit in.
Mm-hmm.
He was starting to show signs of life, and then he break his wrist or broke his hand and missed some time. And when he came back, he wasn't even playing. He didn't play a snap in the postseason. It was just a bad fit. He just never fit in. He was a guy that had double-digit sacks with the Jets, and they were pretty high on him. But it started off bad and got worse. And I think the Eagles were hoping. I think he needed 8 sacks this year to make that 5th-round pick, a 4th-round pick. And after a month, I mean, he had 4 sacks, and everyone's thinking, wow, he's going to get his 8 sacks. Hasn't had one since. He's obviously a talented guy. I mean, his pressure numbers with the Jets were really high, but it just never worked out. I don't think the coach is real thrilled with him, and he was just buried on the bench I saw a quote where he said his Super Bowl ring doesn't mean anything to him. Because he doesn't want a participation trophy. He didn't participate, so I don't think that's really a good way to put it. But yeah, I mean, Howie Roseman's gotten a ton of credit for most of his moves have been, have worked out great. But this is one that notably didn't.
Yeah, and I think when the 49ers got him, obviously he had his best season, Bryce Huff did, with the Jets under Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
So when Saleh became the defensive coordinator and the asking price for Huff wasn't all that high. And I also think they felt like, okay, he would be a good guy on the other side when you have your established number 1 edge rusher in Nick Bosa. And so if you're looking at Bryce Huff with Nick Bosa on the other side, you're probably thinking whatever he gives you is kind of a bonus. If Bosa's up around, whatever, 10, 12, 14 sacks, and the other guy can get 5, 6, or 7, that's a big time win. But then once he became, in essence, kind of the number 1 guy, then it's like, okay, well, 4 sacks for a full regular season is not going to cut it. But you know how it is. I mean, you guys were right there, eyewitnesses to a great postseason run last year. Everything that happened in the regular season now goes out the window. So if Bryce Huff can turn it on against a team that I'm sure he wants to make a huge impact against, then that trade will be looking good for the 49ers and maybe not so good for the Eagles.
So Matt, we were all watching that game last week, 49ers, Seahawks. We saw what happened. How much of an impact do you think that has going forward on the Niners? Like, how disheartened were they losing that game, and what happened?
Yeah, it was a poor performance. I mean, they just looked slow. They didn't have a full speed practice all week. It was basically walkthroughs on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I think their walkthrough speed carried over to Saturday night. I mean, they just looked Seattle, the 13-3 victory for Seattle doesn't do it justice. I mean, they just hammered the 49ers. And yet somehow the 49ers were a red zone takeaway, not even a red zone, an inside the 5-yard giveaway, I should say, from getting right back in that game early in the 4th quarter. So I don't know exactly, how to put that other than Seattle defensively had all the answers for the 49ers. 49ers team that was held to 3 points, and all the talk for the month leading into that game was just how the 49ers offense was on a roll and might be the most, the best offense in the NFL. And then it just turned the clock back to the first game of the 2017 season, when a very, very, very bad 49ers team in Kyle Shanahan's first game as head coach was held to 3 points. So I can't really explain it. I'm sure the back-to-back short weeks had something to do with it. I'm sure no Trent Williams, no Ricky Pearsall had something to do with it. But in the end, those are just excuses. The professional team needs to play better than that, especially a team that had been relying on its offense. So I don't know. It's kind of inexplicable to see what happened when the lights were the brightest and the 49ers could have been the number one overall seed with a victory in their home stadium, which would have guaranteed that every game they played in the postseason would have been at Levi Stadium, because, of course, Super Bowl 60 is here as well. So it was a very disappointing performance. From what I understand, a very somber locker room, but they're in the postseason, and as we've seen, all you have to do is get in and see what happens, and that's where the 49ers are. They certainly made the road for themselves a heck of a lot more difficult, because quite clearly, unless the 49ers get hot and the Packers win a couple of games in upset fashion, 49ers will have to go on the road for as long as they're in the postseason. And it doesn't get any more difficult than starting off against a defending championship team that returns the vast majority of their players from that Super Bowl winner.
Hey, Matt, the NFC Championship game here a couple of years ago, any lingering feelings about that, especially with Brock and what happened, and just the way he got hurt on that one play, the Hassan Reddick sack, got knocked out of the game, came back but couldn't throw. I think it was 31-7. Obviously, not the way they wanted it to go. Any lingering thoughts on that from those guys?
I don't. I'm just trying to think about, like, it seemed like guys like Deebo Samuel and Dre Greenlaw, Brandon Ayuk, some of the guys who were kind of in the center of that and did a lot of talking, aren't necessarily around anymore. Well, aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
And they did go back the next season, and Brock Purdy had, threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I think that
42-9 game, I think.
Yeah. So I think
that was the first loss in the Eagles' collapse that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think that, that'll the 2022 NFC Championship game will certainly be a storyline, but those are storylines that we certainly revisited in 23. I think that so I don't know if the last the lingering memory of going there would be the regular season win or the year before the playoff loss.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would assume there is an element of the memory just because of the significance of losing in the NFC Championship game. And now it's another, elimination game. So I don't know. I think that Brock Purdy in a lot of ways kind of exercised those demons the year after going back there, just months after the surgery to reattach his elbow. Basically was what happened. I mean, the torn UCL on that play and a full off season of rehab to get back to where he was. And, he had a great 23 season, his first full year as a starter.
Matt, I do want to get your take on which way you think this game is going to go, but anything else for us that you want to know about the Eagles before this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm curious because I'm just looking at how well the Eagles played last season, obviously winning the Super Bowl in dominating fashion. Obviously, the organization made a conscious effort to keep that roster together as much as they could. and then add at the trade deadline with Jalen Phillips. Is this kind of seen as anything short of a Super Bowl championship is a not a wasted season, but a major disappointment?
Ruby, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think when you've been to 3 Super Bowls since 2017, won 2 of them, and been to 2 in the last 3 years. Yeah, I mean, that's the standard in the locker room and among fans. I don't think anybody's in this to lose in the wild card round or lose in the conference semis. So, yeah, I think that's the expectation, and I think anything short of another Super Bowl would be disappointment for this team.
Yeah, and you've probably heard like there's been some booing here and there, which is kind of par for the course in Philly in general. But yeah, it's because the expectations are so high, and there's the potential to have a run here of Super Bowls, and that's really rare to do. And I think the fan base, people in the building, realize that they have this opportunity. They don't want to see them squander it.
And I guess the other thing would be, did you sense from the Eagles that the regular season was just kind of an hors d'oeuvre? Like, the way they approached week 18, resting so many of their starters and basically showing that, hey, we don't care. We want the 49ers to come here rather than going for the 2 seed. Did you kind of get the sense that they feel like they can flip that switch offensively once the postseason begins?
It's funny. We were just talking about that phrase, flip the switch, because I think that's kind of a foolish way to look at this. But there is confidence that this is a battle tested team. They have a quarterback who's been in the playoffs, who's done these things, a lot of the same players who went in that run last year. So I don't know if they, they tried to win in the regular season. They were trying to improve their seeding as much as they could until resting. So I think they cared about the regular season, but there is a confidence in that locker room that comes with the experience they have.
Yeah. And I think for the 49ers, this is a team that expected to be in the postseason, but the way the season played out, I think it turned into almost kind of a pleasant surprise that, they were able to go 12-5. And I'm not saying that the 49ers feel like they're playing with the house's money or anything of that nature, but if you look at, the players that aren't there and you look at the names on the defense, yeah, a lot of these veteran guys, I don't know how much longer they'll be there and playing at such a high level. Guys like Trent Williams and George Kittle. So I don't know if I doubt the 49ers will go into this feeling like, oh, we have nothing to lose. They have a lot to lose. They have a playoff game to lose. Anytime you get to the postseason, you want to take full advantage of it. But it just kind of seems like everything on the surface has lined up for the Eagles to make a run through the postseason and potentially even a repeat, whereas the 49ers are a team where nothing quite has gone as planned, but they've somehow kind of found a way to jimmy rig this thing and make it through into the postseason. And they squandered their chance at home field advantage, which was kind of a surprise they even made it that far to be in week 18 without as a possibility. So I kind of see it as a team that, kind of a lot of contrasts in how these teams approach this season. The 49ers, tore down and created a lot of salary cap space. And they've just gotten like these kind of odd contributions that you wouldn't have expected from guys that weren't being counted upon.
All right, Matt, we're going to wrap this up in a minute here, but Reuben and Matt, we're recording this on Tuesday. The line 4.5 points. The Eagles are favored. Reuben, are you leaning one way or the other? And then Matt will go to you.
I don't have a pick yet. I'm waffling right now. I don't think the Eagles can score enough points to win this game. And I think the defense will play well, but I just don't see this instantly becoming a 27, 30-point offense, which they might need. So maybe that's my answer. But right now, I haven't decided, but I'm not sure the Eagles can beat this team.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I kind of disagree with Reuben. I don't like to make predictions, but I think just on paper, I mean, you look at it and you think, I was kind of taken aback last week when the Seahawks were a 2.5-point favorite. But then you go, man, those people who make the lines, they know they're smarter than the average bear. So I think this is going to be a very difficult game for the 49ers to win. I mean, I think you got a battle tested team in the Eagles. You have 49ers defense with a lot of question marks. I personally think that home field advantage and everything else, that to me, all signs kind of point Eagles in this game.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. We'll have more Eagle Eye and 49ers talk on the other side. The Road to Victory bus tour, sponsored by Ticketmaster, is back this Thursday. A lot of fun stops along the way and a chance to win some playoff tickets. And that last stop on the bus tour, we PJ Wellahan's in Cherry Hill. That's the scene for a live Q&A starting at 7 p.m. I'll be there along with Rube, Michael B., John Clark, and Barrett Brooks. Should be a lot of fun out there at PJ's. Rube, that was fun talking to Matt a little bit about the 49ers. I love that the second we have a new guest on, you bring it back to 1996.
Yeah, because I figured he covered that game in the rain at Candlestick.
And he did.
He did.
It's two guys talking about a game in 1996.
Yeah, why not?
I like that. So earlier we mentioned Nakobe Dean expected to play in this game. We know that thanks to Vic Fangio, who is never shy with information. We talked to Vic, we talked to Kevin Patullo and Michael Clay on Tuesday. We don't have to get into everything they said, but any takeaways from those guys?
Well, it was good talking to Vic about Kyle Shanahan. They're friends, and they almost worked together with the 49ers. Kyle tried to pry him away from the Bears, as Matt talked about. And it sounds like Vic really wanted to go there with him, but it just didn't work out the time he did. He said he almost worked with him a couple times. So I think, you're talking about one of the best play callers and offensive minds in the game against one of the best defensive play callers and defensive minds. So I think Vic is kind of relishing the challenge to go up against him, and it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, like Matt mentioned, they haven't seen each other a ton, and the last one was 2018. So Vic kind of poo-pooed the idea that he's had success against Shanahan. He has, for the record. He's held all those offenses in check, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, he said it was 2018. He said, how many years ago was that, Rube? It's like,
yeah, he gave that one to you, and I was like, hey, I can handle that one, Vic.
It's like I can subtract 7 from 2025, so I got that one right. He's like, you're the stats guy, you can do that. It's like, I think it's a little easy, but yeah, I think it's going to be a fun matchup, and it's good on good, and I can't wait to watch that matchup.
Yeah, there's a lot of football nerds getting pretty excited about this game.
Yeah.
Anything else from Vic that stood out to you?
He talked about Jalix. Jalix has such an unusual skill set. It was cool hearing him talk about what Jalix is capable of doing. I mean, you don't get many players that lead a team in interceptions and sacks. It was funny because he was asked about him leading the team in interceptions. He said, "Oh, are you saying our corner, our secondary didn't play well enough?" Well, they didn't have the interceptions you'd like to see. But yeah, Jalix, and I think he said over like the second half of the year, he's been so good, and he's capable. We've seen him just take over games. He's that good. He just needs to do it a little more consistently.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come with time. But you're right. It's such a unique set of skills for a defensive end and an edge rusher to have in the NFL. Like, he looks so smooth in coverage that, yeah, you're going to keep dropping him. He's probably going to keep picking off the passes that come his way.
Yeah.
That's all I really had from Vic. Anything from Patullo or Michael Clay?
Not really. Not really anything from Kevin. The Michael Clay stuff is so in the weeds. He talked about Jake Elliott's playoff history and how, he says he's always going to be confident. He doesn't worry about Jake. We all do.
To varying degrees, yeah.
Yeah, but
it was cool to see how excited Michael Clay was for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. getting a chance to play on defense in Week 18 and playing really well.
Yeah, he did play well. He was one of the few guys on defense that really was good. And yeah, Michael has a lot of pride in seeing his guys go on offense and defense and excelling. There wasn't a lot of that on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, we know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But man, it is cool when Trot makes a big play and he gets to to do the Axeman celebration. It's an electric celebration.
It is.
It was cool in the Super Bowl when he did it, and you could see the whole team was really juiced up by it.
Yeah, he can play. There's no question in my mind he can play in this league. He can play linebacker. Obviously, he's a good special teamer.
Yeah, there was some word salad from Kevin Patullo. I asked him about the linebacker situation for San Francisco. Surprised to hear how high Matt is on Eric Kendricks, who has been a good player in the league, but, I think there's probably a reason he isn't a starter somewhere.
I think he's actually on their practice squad.
Yeah, he's
I think
long in the tooth. So I'm curious to see what he looks like in this game. But, I think there's this expectation that they're going to just attack the linebackers, and they didn't really do that in the Bears game when they were without their starters. So, Patullo talked a little bit about, how you maybe try to attack it, but you understand that the defense is going to try to hide their inefficiencies.
Yeah. Yeah, that was about it from Kevin.
Okay. You want to get the questions?
Yeah, let's do some.
We do have a bunch of them, as you might expect. If you have one for us, it's eagleeye@nbcuni.com, QR code on the screen. First one from Max. Okay, time to embarrass myself with a halftime email. It would be an absolute disaster if the Bears lose and the Eagles get the 3 seed because Sirianni wanted to rest starters. Far worse than risking injury by letting the starters play. If there's something to play for, play the damn starters. Not a bad email, Max. It worked out that way.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that case, and I was on the record as saying he was doing the right thing before the game, so I can't really second guess it. I just the part of the equation I didn't think would happen would be Detroit going in there and winning that game. I thought they would take care of the Commanders pretty easily, even with backups.
Yeah. Now I've seen it framed this way by a few different places, and I agree with the framing here, is that in that game, Grant Calcaterra got hurt, Brett Toth got hurt, and Brandon Johnson got hurt. If those were 3 starters, you might feel a lot differently about the decision.
Yeah, Goddard, Dickerson, and
Blankenship.
And Reed. Yeah, now you're in trouble. Yeah. So I like the way Nick put it last week. He said, I can't guarantee, like, if we win, I can't guarantee we'll be the 2 seed, but if we play our starters, we could get someone hurt. I guarantee that we're not going to get anyone hurt if they don't play. So, yeah, it made sense.
From Jennifer. Watching our backups, specifically McKee, devolve as the game went on makes me feel convinced that Kevin Patullo is the problem. I get that we had backups in the game, but they got worse over time and the problems appeared to be the same our starters have. This reads as a coaching problem. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. And devolve is a perfect word for it. I mean, he started off pretty hot, and for whatever reason, he couldn't sustain it. The offense couldn't sustain it. And I do think coaching plays into that.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, with the starters too, a lot this year.
In fairness, he did start the game off with Devontae Smith.
Sure.
Without Devontae Smith, it looked different. But you're right. I mean, there were certainly moments in this game where you're watching the play calls going, what the heck are they doing right now? Especially given the situation. You have a backup quarterback behind a backup offensive line. And the running back is performing well. Yeah, I think the play calling left a lot to be desired. Which is a shame because they were so close to threading the needle and living in both worlds, which is what they tried to do.
Yep.
This next one is a long email, but it was very well written. So this is Tom. Good evening, gentlemen.
Oh.
As I sit in stunned silence watching Keely Ringo put in what can only be described as a game for the ages against the Commanders, I'm wondering if this performance is perhaps the single worst one-game performance you've ever seen by a cornerback in the National Football League. Quick summary. There's under 2 minutes left right now, and I just watched him run away from a scrambling quarterback on his way into the end zone to see if he could perhaps pick up a late addition to the play. I watched him miss that very quarterback, who incidentally enough is about 97 years old, 2 plays before that on another scramble. The entire Washington game plan in the second half was to run streaks at him and then throw bad passes so that he could interfere with the opposing receiver and grant Washington easy first downs. I've never seen a passing attack that did not require completions, but now I have. Can either of you recall a performance that is worse than this one and a player that seems so completely outmatched and undeserving to be on the field? Take care.
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Jenkins had some games that were probably on that level when he was starting cornerback. Bagel chips, good old bagel chips. A guy called the radio station. He was like, "He's worse than toast. He's bagel chips," and it stuck. The nickname stuck, but no, it was awful. It was terrible to watch, and Bennett was just as bad.
Yeah, in a way, it almost minimizes, any single bad performance because collectively they were all bad.
Yeah.
If it was just like one guy getting roasted, it stands out more. And it wasn't just Keeley getting roasted.
No, that's true. It was hard to watch, and yeah, they better keep their corners healthy.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, next one is from John. Just wanted to start off by saying that I truly appreciate all you guys do at the pod. There's very few that do it the way you guys do. During Sunday's game, that was bad timing. That was the best time yawn I've ever seen.
No, I appreciate the kind words.
Well, the nicest compliment we can get followed by yawn is great. During Sunday's game against the Commanders, I overheard one of the commenters compare Devontae Smith to Lynn Swann with just how acrobatic he can be and just so graceful and smooth at the high point. Of course, I consumed as much highlights as possible and came away feeling that same sentiment. With that being said, I guess I have two questions. One, do you believe that is a good comparison, or is there someone else that may come to mind? Two, hypothetically, if AJ were to leave this offseason, do you believe this coaching staff has enough faith in Smitty to be counted on as the number one option? So start off with one. I didn't really get to see Lynn Swann play, so that's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
Similarities?
I think the guy he reminds me of most is Macklin. Just the size and the toughness and balance and hands and acrobatic catches. Now, he's done it longer. I mean, Macklin had a short career and didn't have a lot of elite seasons. He had 2,000-yard seasons here and like one other over 900. But he's the guy I think Devontae most reminds me of. I didn't see much Lynn Swann either. Other than highlights.
Okay.
I know he probably shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. His numbers aren't really Hall of Fame numbers, but he was a good player, a great postseason player.
And then the second part of that, how would you feel with?
Oh yeah,
and we can kind of leave it independently of the AJ conversation.
Sure.
But if they're in a situation where Devontae needs to be the one, is he capable?
No question about it. Yeah, no question. He could be number one. He'd be number one. I mean, I think he's almost co-number one here. I mean, AJ's better, but it's just not by much.
Every time I watch Devontae have a big game, I can't help but feel that in a different situation, people would know how good he is. And I don't just mean without a number one receiver. I also mean like a different offense, like that ran through him. I think he would put up monster numbers. We'd be talking about him like one of the best receivers in the game. It kind of makes me think that every time I watch him have one of those big performances that, you always, he might be one of those players when it's all said and done where you have to just take the numbers with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the NFC and the receivers in the NFC, CD and Puka and Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's going to be hard for him to ever make a Pro Bowl. I mean, you never know what'll happen with injuries and guys going to the other conference or something, but I think he's as good as, he's as good as anybody. He just doesn't have the numbers to show it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we see it, people in this city know how good he is because we've seen it now for an extended period of time. And honestly, we don't talk about it enough. Them drafting him and bringing him in, I think it really helped change the culture of the team.
You can make that case. Yeah.
We'll finish it up here with John. Hey guys, love the pod. Heard you guys talking about unclaimed property and had to take a moment to geek out. It's rare anyone cares about this level of corporate finance. Companies that issue disbursements, is that the right word?
Disbursements.
To individuals or other companies are required by law to make every effort to ensure that the receiving party accepts the money. If the company that issued the disbursement is unable to track down the receiver after a period of time, it varies from state to state, then the money must be turned over to the state of the last known address of the receiver. Each state has
back-to-back questions about receivers.
Each state has a directory online that is searchable by name for this money. Everyone should routinely check it out. A lot of times, these are small dollar refunds or rebate checks associated with healthcare or other related businesses. I've seen some large ones too. I believe both of you live in NJ. Google NJ achievement search or unclaimed property search and follow the prompts. I did a quick search and don't see anything there for Rube, but there is a claim available for David Zangaro. Check it out. I accept finder's fees. Thank you for all you do, fellas.
Appreciate it. I don't live in Jersey.
Yeah, we actually had someone send one for Pennsylvania for you.
Okay.
And you already looked at it, right? But it looks like you might have some unclaimed money too. So this is like a new level of listenership.
Yeah.
They're giving us money now.
Yeah. What do you think's the appropriate percentage to give to these guys? Like 10%?
I'm going to see what it is first.
Okay.
Let's see what's coming my way. But yeah, maybe we'll work something out.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, very much.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
This is something that wasn't even on my radar.
No, I had never heard of it. And I thought it was a scam, like I said, when I got it, but it's not.
That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for questions today. If you have one for us, eagleeye@nbcuni.com. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, subscribe there as well. One more time, Thursday night, come out to PJ Wellahans in Cherry Hill. Should be a lot of fun taking some questions in person from a lot of our listeners. That'll be a nice change up.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Reuben, any final thoughts today?
No, just come on out Thursday night to PJ's and hope to see you out there.
All right. Thanks to Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area and the 49ers Talk podcast for joining us. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye. We'll talk to you soon.